In 1948, the British ran Palestine. The British got Palestine after World War I. So after World War I, one of the big changes in the Middle East was the dismantling of the Ottoman Empire. So for hundreds and hundreds of years, the Turks ran the Middle East. It's called a caliphate. And the Ottomans were the caliphs, and they ran the show. And after World War I, the Turks kicked out, dismantled the caliphate, went secular, Kemal Ataturk. And so the Ottoman Empire was dismantled, and guess what? Western allies wanted to midwife the Middle East and other parts of the world into enlightened democracy. So they created these mandates, they called them. And in the Middle East, the French and the British got most of the mandates. And the goal of the mandate, and these are League of Nations mandates, the goals of the mandates were to birth these former imperial provinces into modern democracies. And the British had Palestine. The problem is that the British had more or less promised both the Arabs and the Jews that they would have a place in Palestine. And prior to the British pulling out, there was coexistence in Palestine between Jews and Arabs, and Arabs between Muslim and Christian Arabs. And this coexistence started to fall apart because the British are going to pull out. And it's like the sense I get is that all groups wanted the British out. Yeah, we don't need you Brits are here to tell us how to run our country. But there wasn't necessarily any good plan for how it would go down when the British left. So they had a couple of different commissions, and finally the UN came up with this, what they call a partition plan. And they basically said, here's a map. And what we're going to do is we're going to give the area here in blue to the Jews, and we're going to give the area here in red to the Arabs. Now, we've worked on this map, and we're hoping that there's not a whole lot of displacement, but there's going to be displacement because there's going to be Jews in the Arab areas, and there's going to be Arabs in the Jewish areas. But it's not going to be as bad as India. It's going to be pretty clean, and just get ready to move. If you're in the wrong area, get ready to move. And basically everybody's saying, nah, I don't like this idea at all. The Jews had a lot of mixed feelings about it. They don't say that now, but there were a lot of mixed feelings at the time. And I guess the sentiment that rose to the top was, well, it's better than nothing. We'll take the partition plan. It's going to give us more than we otherwise probably would get. And the Arabs are saying, forget the partition plan. Now, you could spin that to say, see, the Arabs didn't want to play nice and the Jews did. But that's, I think, disingenuous. I think asking anybody to flee their homes and go somewhere else is kind of asking a lot. None of us would want to do it. What could have happened, and if I were, ruling the world, this is what I would have had the UN do. Create a regular state. Create a regular state where everybody gets the vote and you just go ahead and get on with your democracy. There isn't any category. There isn't any like, oh, you're race A, you're religion B. I just would not do that. I wouldn't come up with Jewish and Arab areas. I'd just come up with a state. Like the United States. I think the United States is a pretty good example of absorbing lots of different kinds of people. Now, every time we do that, there's, populism, and we're against the immigrants, and I'm being part Irish, so, when the Irish are coming over, The white people here didn't want Irish because they're not us. They weren't even considered white. They were considered Catholic. So we have that. We have that human thing about I don't want these other types coming into my space. But so it would have been a challenging thing, but a one-state solution might have worked. And there were lots of Israelis that wanted that. But the Zionist program, which is there must be Jewish control, and Jewish people need to be in the driver's seat at the expense of every other kind of person, that Zionist program really won out in Israel. And so efforts to push for a one-state solution were just never got anywhere. And eventually the Palestinians agreed to a two-state solution. And that's where we have the Palestinian Authority more or less getting some autonomy in the West Bank. There was a lot of movement, Oslo Accords, a lot of movement to say, okay, we'll go with the two-state solution. It's probably the best we can do. And yet, in some ways, a two-state solution is a failure. It's a failure to really recognize the rights of people and the humanity of everyone.